Good morning. Hello, Ria. Welcome. All right. It is October 5th, 2025, and we are here live streaming. And today since it's the month of Halloween, I thought we would go back to the DC Supervillains book. Last time I colored from this book, we stopped on this page of Trigon from the Teen Titans. However, we're going to do Man Bat today. I figure we'll do a fresh page. And even though Trigon is a demon and super creepy, I don't know. Man Bat felt like it would be more fun today. I'll just save the Trigon for a future whip episode because I actually have a couple. There's another half-finished page or two in there. So at some point, I'll just do a whole whip video to finish off a bunch of pages in this. Good morning, Stanley. Lovely to see you. How have you been? I hope well. And really quick, this happened between the last stream and today, but Derek Hoover has become a member. No, he's probably not here yet, but all new members get... Wait, let me make sure that works.
Bring out the olive! Bring out the olive! Bring out the olive!
And of course...
And enough champagne to fill the Nile.
Anyway, thank you, Derek. Muchly appreciated. Every little bit helps support the channel, and basically I buy art supplies and pay for StreamYard with anything I make. So thank you very much. And good morning, Nolan. Lovely to see you. I've arrived for the day. Hopefully all is well up yonder. So anyway, let's get started. I am sort of in the new studio, obviously. I was last week. This is where I film. It's still a little chaotic because I'm still getting everything set up. We're gonna, hopefully, if I can get everything rolling this week, I'll be able to do a studio tour and collection tour before the end of the month. I am right now in that place where I'm trying to figure out how to get everything arranged. I have 2 to 3 years of Star Wars and Masters of the Universe stuff to open, plus random other toy lines. So yeah, and it sort of took a while to sort of wrap my head around, like, you know, because I have glass cases to display stuff in here. But it took a while to sort of figure out, you know, sort of where I wanted stuff and sort of conceptualize it, you know, because, you know, we all sort of daydream of, all collectors sort of daydream about, you know, that perfect collection space. And then when you finally get it, it's like, there are all the little things you didn't think about when planning it. So I've been trying to get this all. And because this is also sort of where I'm going to be filming and where I have to do my day job, which is what pays the bills. You know, some of the things that have taken precedence so far are the practical parts of everything. So, which is maybe more information than people care about, but, you know, that's gotta talk about something for 2 hours. And good morning, Hella Geek. For those keeping track at home, Hella Geek will be joining me on a Sunday in probably November. We're trying to find dates right now. So, and good morning, CJ. CJ is also a channel member, so really quick. There we go.
Bring out the olive!
And enough champagne to fill the Nile.
Good morning, CJ. Thank you for joining us. Thank you everyone for joining us, actually. I had a, I don't care if this is TMI, I had a really weird, terrible day yesterday. So today has been much better, so I'm glad you're all here to hang out with me so that I can color this Man Bat and ramble off the top of my head, and so far so good. you know, some days you just wake up and everything is off. We had to do a grocery shop yesterday, and we didn't, because we had some vet stuff, we had to take one of the cats in. It sort of threw off the schedule, and I am very schedule oriented. And just sort of the act of having to go to basically a different grocery store where I didn't know where everything was, and I didn't have some of the stuff that I need to, you know, for breakfast and for dinners and all the things. And I had to sort of on the spot change the plan. It just threw everything off for the day. So, and it was, you know, like last week just kind of was not my favorite week of this year. And so, but today is better, and next week will be great. And we're all hanging out while I color Man Bat. So it's a good chill day for a Sunday. And then after we finish streaming, I am going to go have breakfast. Well, technically brunch. And then I'm going to film some Halloween stuff for you guys. Even got Halloween nails for it. I don't normally get sort of fancy design nails. I just normally get a color, but it's like, well, you know, I'm going to have them on for about a week before I get them changed. So let's do some fun Halloween stuff for the Halloween content. Not that it really shows on camera, but sometimes it's just a vibe. You just want the vibe to be in the proper mood. No bubbles with brunch. I had a little bit of wine on the cavalcade the other night, and I remembered why I don't do a lot of bubbles or wine. I do champagne for New Year's Eve, Christmas, and my birthday, and gotta kind of prepare for. I have to, you know, like there are certain medications that don't mix well with, you know, alcohol. Even something as delightful as champagne. Wait, let's cue it.
And enough champagne to fill the Nile.
So, so I have to be really, I can't just randomly basically drink without sort of planning it ahead. And generally I will skip some of my medications on the day that I'm going to have my birthday wine. Well, my birthday champagne. It's technically California sparkling wine, but I call it champagne because I'm uncouth and grew up in the South, where all anything sparkly and bubbly was champagne. You know, when the family drink is natural lat or wild turkey, anything bubbly and frothy is champagne. Somebody stayed at my aunt's house. She had that horrible, what is it, the alcoholic clam and tomato stuff that you add vodka. Well, it's not, you add vodka to it or some such. She had that in the Bud Light margarita beer. And she was like, oh, it's good. You should try it. And that was in 2013. And I can still recall the way I spit that tomato clam stuff out. There are some things not even vodka can save. She was horribly offended, but it's like, but then I remembered that as you get older, your taste buds are not as sophisticated. And she's older than dirt, so. Actually, though, as long ago as that is, like, I'm not as, my parents were super young. So I think my aunt is only like, let's see, super young. So I think my aunt, yeah, she's only like 18 years older than I am, so that was 2013. So I'm actually almost as old as she was when that happened, and my taste buds are still not that dead, so maybe it's just true, my hypothesis, and she's just everything about her is terrible. So, you know. Yes, that stuff. It was terrible. Worst thing I've ever tasted. And I've had growing up in the South, you eat weird stuff. Yeah, like luckily I don't have sort of chronic pain in any capacity, but my brain just sometimes doesn't brain properly. You know, Carrie Fisher is my idol for multiple reasons. Not just because she, you know, kicked ass back in the day and was sassy. So, you know, and some days, no matter what you do, some days are just going to be a little off in the brain. And I have learned as I stop, because in your 20s, you're just like, what? In your teens, even, you're just like, what's wrong with me? I'm broken. And then as you get older, you're just like, this is just how it is sometimes. Once you learn to roll with it, it's a lot easier to not give in to the despair of it. And sometimes I just allow myself to be super frustrated and angry and cranky and sulky and grumpy and emo like I'm 12 again and writing terrible poetry in a Lisa Frank notebook. So, I don't know. I think most of us, though, I think most people, we just are not conditioned to give ourselves grace when we're less than. It's one of the weird things about growing up in sort of the way our society has become, where it's like you have to be producing, you have to, produce, consume, contribute to society in a way that people can make money. It gets harder and harder to just allow yourself to just stop and breathe and relax. And so I have been very bad about that lately. But also just with all the studio stuff and, when you buy a house that isn't sort of built specifically for you, it takes a while to get it's an older house. We had to do some repairs, did some remodeling. So we're sort of finally to the place where there's nothing other than like, we need this kind of furniture, we need to move some stuff around or throw stuff out. We have one more big project, but it's outside and it'll happen within the next couple of weeks. But it makes it really hard, because like when I do have a day off, even from making content, there's house stuff I have to do, or I'm unpacking, or, and I personally, even before Matt and I were a couple, I was planning on home ownership as far back as like 2008. So back then I started moving into smaller spaces that were cheaper and then just sticking most of my stuff in storage. So I've been going through I've got boxes of clothes from 2005, and I'm going to tell you, nobody needs to see me nobody needs to see anybody in rust orange corduroys with an Evanescence t-shirt. I joke. I didn't have an Evanescence t-shirt, but it's that Avril Lavigne, mid 2000s fashions. So a lot of it I'm just gonna take to Goodwill or one of the thrift shops in the area and just give it to them and be like, if somebody wants this, they can have it. So, it's a lot to go through, but some of it, I found This silver skirt I was wearing at the club in like 1999. And that was a pretty good night. Yeah, it doesn't fit. And even if it did fit, it's not like I'm gonna. My silver skirt days are well past. But it's also hard to sort of give some of the sentimentals. I mean, obviously, I have an entire studio and collection room now full of, I mean, some of the stuff I've been carrying with me since 1978. So you know, even clothes that have sentimental values, sometimes it's a little hard, but they just need to go. And if I can get them to like a thrift store that doesn't overcharge and just give it to them so that somebody who needs that silver skirt to come into their life and bring a little magic can find it, all the better. You know, nothing says 90s like a silver skirt with a satin blue shirt with like Peter Pan collar and those little poofy Peter Pan sleeves. And I probably wore some big chunky Doc Marten boots and stockings with the runs in them. Oh my goodness. Oh, fashion. Oh, the fashion. That's not just, yeah, exactly. There we go. Yeah, see, I love them, but I don't know. Some things just don't, you know. Like, I can hold on to it for, like, obviously sentimental reasons, and some of it I will. I still have this shirt that I wore under my high school graduation gown, and I'll keep this shirt, because, you know, it was super expensive for 90s money, and, we got it at JCPenney, and it was an entire, you know, me and my mom went and picked out some stuff for graduation, and she did not like the shirt, but she was like, well, if that's what you want, then I guess that's what you get. It's your graduation, not mine. And she often was difficult with stuff like that. She also would do that thing where people will make fun of, you know, like kind of like not as bad, not like anywhere near like Carrie's mom, but you know, I could relate to Carrie sometimes because my mom would be like, well, they're all gonna laugh at you if you wear that. It looks ridiculous. And to be fair, I grew up in a really rural, small town, which was pretty, you know, they often did make fun of what I was wearing, even when it was, by my definition, cute. But, you know, small rural areas are not always hip to 90s fashion. And so, but, you know, so the shirt was, it was a victory. And, you know, it was right when I was graduating high school. And after that, you know, it was like when I was in college, it was just like, they would be like, here's money to go buy clothes for school. And I would buy a couple things, and then I would spend the rest of it at Suncoast Video or Musicland or Walden Books. Like, I don't need that many clothes. I do remember I spent like $80 in like 1994 money on this really nice blazer with giant shoulder pads to wear to college so that I could, you know, and also that time that was sort of it's kind of in style. It was like the 90210 Melrose era. And I would wear that with I had this brown silk shirt and I would wear it with like these mustard shorts that were just hideous. It was mustard denim. It was like a black blazer with like brown silk, and then I would wear like a big colorful blossom flower, like Blossom, like the TV show, like something like she would wear on one of her hats on her. I was the height of teen fashion, but it looked utterly, even at the time, I'm like, this is so cool, but also kind of like, it's also ridiculous. Luckily, never went through the hat phase some people go through. It was that whole 90s, like, here, put this funky hat on. I never hit the funky hat phase. I was too busy rocking the China Phillips wedge. Man, I love that. As soon as I saw her with that in that whole Gone video, I was like, that's my hair for the next 10 years. I also liked it though because I didn't then have to spend hours with mousse and hairspray making big giant bangs. So, oh, the 90s. Such a weird time. Yeah, right? We all have those moms. And so, you know, even the best mom sometimes is a little bit of a Carrie's mom. I think that's why everyone relates to Carrie. Everyone's mom at some point or another has been like, if you do this thing where you break away from, sort of what's norm. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there who had a mom who's just like, you just, now it's, my Gen X and older millennials, it was way more common for us to like sort of encourage our kids to be sort of unique and different, and because of stuff like that. But for for elder millennials and for Gen X, I think all of us at some point or another got some version of they're all gonna laugh at you again, which I think is why so many people vibe with that movie, the way in the book and just the story in general. And our parents were all like boomers, and they sort of got a lot of conditioning, especially in the 1950s, before the 60s counterculture about like, you have to buy this kind of house in the suburbs and you need 2.5 kids and a dog, and you don't acquire debt to buy amazing things. Your family won't think you love them. So, like, it was really, I think, pounded into their brains that they had to model a certain aesthetics and not stand out from the crowd. So, while at the same time, like, moving away from like sort of generational households where it's like the entire family lived in one big giant house. So, like, conform, but also do it as an individualist. Don't build community with the people around you because you need to be an individual. I will say this book, like it's Inside Editions. They make most of the licensed coloring books. paper and it's pretty good, but I will say that no matter what pencil I'm using, the background is always kind of a little bit more streaky than I like, unless I do many, many layers. I mean, the shakiness works in the small areas because you can use it to do texture, but for the sky, you just kind of want a uniform. It's going pretty quick, so I'll add some more. I'll add another color to it. And this is Gotham, so I'm going to need to add some purple to the sky. There may be some green. I don't know yet. Probably purple though, because I want to do the moon sort of like yellow orange. So purple and blue will work better with that than if I were to do green. Layer 1 done. Then go in with amethyst. Just start layering that in. Let's see. That is supposed to be metallo. So it's not a metallo costume I recognize, but also I pretty much stopped reading comics in like 2013, so I don't know if, and this was, I think, 2022, I think this book was made. It has 2023, so it's entirely possible in one of the many reboots or reimaginings that have happened in the 12 years since I've read comic books DC comic books regularly, that this is the metallo costume. I mean, I would say it is if they're saying this is metallo and this is the costume he's wearing. Because most of the costumes in this book that I have had to look up to reference were current as of 2023. So I guess this is metallo now. Which I guess is fine, but it looks like there are 20 different characters he could be from DC. Whereas the sort of look he used to have felt a little bit more distinct than that. Like I would have recognized one of the older costumes instantly as like, oh, well, that's metallo. But every so often, they will come in and sort of revise all the characters and to sort of a modern aesthetic. One of the things I have noticed as I've been working on some various comic stuff for some video things, is that before the crisis, the reason DC characters all sort of, would look radically different was just because DC had been around since the golden age, and a lot of the character designs had not been really overhauled before crisis. So often whenever a character would come back, they would just have the original costume, which had been made like in 1940 whatever. So like they would tweak them, but it was still the basic same costume. And then they would be there mixing it up with characters who had been designed in the 50s or the 60s or the 70s. So you had all these different sort of aesthetics for what comic characters looked like, all sort of coexisting, so it didn't necessarily all blend together because everyone was from different eras and different aesthetics. Whereas now what happens is every couple of years, basically everyone gets a remake to match sort of the current style. Which I kind of get it, but I also feel like something is lost when everyone, you know, it's like after X-Men, how suddenly, the movie, how everyone suddenly was in like black leather suits that matched. I think something is just sort of lost there. I personally like the aesthetic where everyone's sort of a little different and you got all the different eras sort of represented. Yeah, everyone needs pouches, Rob Liefeld. But even that, there are characters, you know, like who you got created in the 90s that had all the pouches and the belts, and you know, they'll go in and just bring them back for one issue, but then give them a brand new costume for that one issue. And it's just like, why not just let them look like the 90s? I don't think you should necessarily change the look or costume of a character unless there's a really compelling reason to do so. Anyway, that's me. And I have only actually been using Black Widow for whatever reason on this book. I'll likely change that on this new space because I will have everything pretty easily accessible. So I still need to really use my polychromos. I'll probably do a live stream soonish where I just use those for whatever page I work on, so I can get some more practice with them. Also, I'm unpacking all of my pencils. I have that. There's a company called Color that does a lot of color pencil sets, and they have a super obnoxious 520 pencil set that I picked up. Oh, I don't know, probably a year ago because it was on a pretty good sale, and I'm like, oh well, let me try that. But I also have several of their smaller sets. So I'm gonna do like one of the pencil test videos with the Color pencils from the smaller set, but I thought it might be fun if I did a live stream where I broke out the 520 pencil set and I either do one page or a bunch of pages to see how many of the 520 pencils I can use. I was looking at it, I'm like, I can't even fathom, and a lot of the colors are so close that they don't even, I was going through them, and some of those colors are, you know, like it looks like the same color, and like, I guess I'm probably on a microscopic level, it's a slightly different shade, but it's like, well, at least it was a really good sale when I got these. And with 520 pencils, like, I am set for a while. You know, other than the occasional open stock pickup for Prismacolor, I'm not really going to need to buy any more pencil sets. I'll need to at some point replace some of these Black Widow pencils because I have that before sort of everything was chaotic. Did use them quite a bit. And so, but other than sort of replacing Prismacolors I use up and, you know, slowly replacing the Black Widow sets as I use them up, I'm not really going to need to buy pencils anytime soon. I am almost out of sets to do pencil tests on, but that's okay. Like, those videos are fun to make, but they also take a lot of time that I could use to do other videos. So now that I have the craft room almost ready to go and start making play sets and custom figures again. So and that one Monday where I drop a pencil test, I can now drop a let's do this craft from 1980. Or do like the paint. I have a bunch of vintage paint by number sets. I will probably just scan those and color them, but still. Some fun projects I can do once the pencil tests are over. And I have a friend who is a teacher that I'm gonna go through all the sets and figure out which ones I like and which ones I want to keep around and which ones are handy to have around. And then the rest of them I'm gonna take to her so she can use them in class for her students. Because teachers don't get paid a lot. Most of their supplies come out of their own pocket. So donate some of my extra sets that I just am never going to get to. When I started buying them, I thought, well, you know, like, I'll get tired of the Prismacolor, I'll get tired of Black Widow, it'll be fun to have extra pencil sets around. And then I realized I just kind of like using what I like using, and there is no quote-unquote perfect set that will ever sort of replace either of the two. And I have a couple cool backup sets that I like. You know, and if those get low, I would replace those. But most of them, you know, even the ones that I've enjoyed, I'm just like, I don't really need all these pencils. I'm not going to art that much before I die in 25 to 30 years. So. Maybe I'll pick a few and do like a channel. I need to do a channel, some sort of channel giveaway at some point. I'm almost 1,700 subscribers. Maybe when I hit 1,700, I'll do a giveaway and like pick one of the pencil sets I liked, but just won't use a lot, and do that as a part of a giveaway. I've got a couple of coloring books. In building the collection, sometimes I'll buy lots. And sometimes you'll get a lot and I'll have 2 or 3 of the same book in them. So I'll probably do some giveaways where I give away a couple of the pencil sets and then give away some of the extra vintage coloring books I have. Just so that they go to people who are cool. I don't want to have to deal with eBay and trying to sell stuff on there. He is coming along. Well, the sky is good. I'm going to go in and use some of this purple for the smoke lifting from the buildings. I'm not going to do anything like solid layers or anything like that. I'm just going to go in and do something so that when whatever colors I put in over it, it'll sort of be under it. I the water soluble ones. Oh yeah, I've got it. Well, I don't have anywhere I only use those. I use them a lot though. Um, I I could prioritize a video where I use those, like, and just show some of the techniques I use with them. So yeah, I'll put that on the list of once I finish the pencil videos, I'll do a couple Karan Dash. Here's how I do this thing. I didn't plan on doing a couple. Here's how I do Barbie hair. To show sort of the formula. Here's how I make gold, that kind of stuff. So that would be cool. Yeah, apple season came. We have apple trees, an apple tree in our backyard, and it came and went really quick. But we got a bunch of. I made a bunch of apple chips. We've got a bunch that we sliced up and froze, so that like for the holidays they can do like apple pies and stuff. And they made a lot of apple butter. So, and then the last of the tomatoes came in, so I'm gonna do this week. I'm gonna at some point do a tomato jam. But because that'll be good. Like, tomato jam is pretty tasty, and I found a really good recipe for it online. Always, our store always is sort of in the day old bread section has these flatbread. These really sort of thick flatbreads that are perfect for little mini pizzas, but often like when I do a proper like red sauce on them for pizza, it gets soggy and then they're hard to eat. Whereas a nice tomato jam, because of the sugar in it, shouldn't make it as soggy. It should get sort of sticky as it heats. And then if you put the right sort of pepperoni and vegetables on there too, it should be a nice little bite. So, and then just tomato jam on toast is delightful. So, and then next year I'll try a tomato chutney, which is like a tomato jam, but not. So. Well, good morning, Stu. Well, it's not morning where you are, but it's actually technically it's not even morning here. It's almost noon. Happy early day, Stu. Good to see you. And hello, Alex. I caught the tail end of the I'm gonna have to do the replay today, Stu, to see how you actually did. So looking forward to it though. That'll happen after the stream when I'm filming some stuff. Yep, DC is pretty good. When I was in Portland that was last week. No, the week before last. I went to my old comic shop. It's still owned by the same family that has always owned it. And I was chatting with her, and there are no local comic shops because I don't want to get as back into comics as I was whenever I got out. But I want to start picking up some stuff again. And Debbie at Excalibur is really good about suggestions when she knows what you like. So she's gonna, I need to call her and, sort of get all the details ironed out. But basically, she's gonna get sort of a pull list and let's have a card on file. And once a month, they'll charge my books and whatever I call to add, and then send it to me via the United States Postal Service. And that way, I'm supporting a small business, even though there are no small businesses anywhere near me that offers comic shops, which is really weird. I thought, like, the closest comic shop is an hour and a half away. But I guess that's sort of the state of physical stores that deal with physical media. It's just Portland has like 3 or 4 comic shops that always seem to be, but it's a metropolitan area, I guess. So I don't know. It just seems weird to me. Even the podunk town, like the city closest to where we grew up, had like 3 comic shops for a big chunk of the time when I was there. So it's weird to me that there's not even a single. There are a couple of vintage stores that have like a couple of long boxes with old comics in it, but those are like books they picked up for consignment or they bought as part of an estate. So, but yeah, if I had time, energy, or finances to start a business, I had the moment, I should start that. I'm like, no, I should not. I think though too, like that's a sort of business in this day and age where you have to have a mail order component to survive if you're not in a major metropolitan area. So, but if I ever start a comic shop, I'll let you all know so you can all buy comics from me. At some point, I should finish writing my comic book and then subject you all to the terrible art. That's a 2028 project there. So I literally do, like, I know that sounds like a joke, but it's not. I literally have a list of like, in 2028, these are the projects I will be working on. And in 2028, I have finished comic book scripts, start drawing. So if we're all still here in 2028, I'll start releasing issues of my comic book. And there won't be AI. There we go. Let's see. All right, this is Huntsman. I think this is a super dark brown. Yep, that's a brown. So that 4. And it's going to man that. All right, here we go. This is a gray. So use this for the smoke, the steam, whatever this is supposed to be. go in hard enough that hopefully it'll help blend out some of the rougher spots of the purple. Let's see. Oh yeah, that looks good. Well, it's easier for me to conceptualize like the work and sort of figure it out and work through the timelines in my head when I have a pretty advanced timeline. So yeah, timelines just sort of help. Like I have a project and I've created a timeline, and I'm not going to work on a thing until 2028. I don't have to worry about it until then. But when I think about it, like it's pre-planning. And if I was way less like, oh my god, I'm never gonna get to all this stuff. It just makes it easier for my brain to, I do much better. Like I have all this Halloween content that I'm making this year. I've already got sort of the outline of 2026 Halloween content. And some of that's because, like of the sort of flip throughs of coloring books, I've got quite a few, obviously. And so I took a stack of books that I have that would work for Halloween content, and I went through them and I said, all right, well, I'll do these books in 2024, and these in 2025, and these for 2026. And yeah, so it's really because so much of the content I make is built around all this stuff I have already. And then next year in like August, I'll sit down and sort of start planning out what's going to be a short, what's going to be a flip through video, what will be. It just makes it easier, especially, because, few people who make content are able to do it full time, where it's what pays the bill. So when you're doing stuff like this, you're sort of in your spare time when you're not doing the stuff that you need to do to keep going. so that you can afford your rent and your food and all that stuff. You know, it's a lot easier if you've sort of worked it all out. So, 2028 comic book stuff. And maybe by then, like, you know, as far as the art stuff, maybe I'll find at that point an artist to collaborate with who has the right style for what it is. Or maybe not. But either way, 2028 comic book. Oh, wait, there's some smoke over here. Let's quickly go in. All right, there we are. Well, hello, Rowdy Riles. Lovely to see you today. I hope you are doing well. I was, well, I still probably will, but I was going to message you this afternoon about some stuff. So, lovely to see you here now. I hope you are having a good day and a good weekend. I feel like you probably deserve that after a couple of hellish weeks. Right. I have to go into another set to get a different gray. I'm not ready to move this set aside just yet, so. I'm not gonna quite yet finish the steam / smoke / whatever it is. And work on the buildings. No. So, for whatever reason, I like doing Gotham City and with some purple in the sky and with a lot of the bricks and buildings yellow and orange. I'm not sure why. I'm trying to figure it out. It's not really at all sort of the color scheme of any of the movies, or I don't remember that being sort of the color they used in any of the comic books, but for whatever reason, I like yellow and oranges for Gotham. Interesting. I should look that up. I've got the collection, and there was like the Man Bat solo series in the late 70s. And then when DC started doing direct only books and sort of prestige format, they re-released them all in like I think 2 or 3 issues. And I have those issues, and it was always pretty good. I always liked Man Bat. I think especially in the 70s, you know, sort of the anti-hero side of it, I felt like was always pretty well handled. Also, Alex, I forgot. Alex, you're a member.
Bring out the olive. Bring out the olive.
And enough champagne to fill the Nile.
There we go. We have properly welcomed Alex to the chat. Sorry, Alex. Oh, speaking, I think only 2 of the members are here. Alex and CJ. I have a program called Cast, which allows me to create a watch party where whatever is on my screen, everybody can watch, everybody can hear. There's a chat room. It would require a program that you download to a computer or your phone. But it's free. I mean, I have the paid version so that I can I use it for my work stuff because sometimes I have to show clients how to use, you know, like certain programs and tools, and it's easier if you do a screen share. But you can use it to watch movies. And Halloween is my favorite time of year, one of them anyway. So I was wondering if, as a perk for members, if I were to do a watch party at some point of some scary movies, again, it's a free program, you don't have to pay anything for it. But it would be whatever, you know, and I'll throw some movies out, of course. But we could all watch it. It's a chat room. It's not like Zoom or StreamYard or anything where you're on the screen. It's just a chat room. And we could watch a movie and MST3K it if we wanted to, or what have you. I don't even know yet. But if that is something you are interested in doing, let me know. Because I think it would be fun. And you know. So I just sort of hang out without live streaming or whatever. And watch some silly, scary movie. So anyhow. And if we do decide to do it, we could probably make it a regular occurrence. As long as I have the program. I mean, I might as well use it, right? And so, anyway. You don't have to answer right away, but think about it. If that's something you might like to do, we could definitely do that. Excellent. See, and even if it ends up only being like two or three of us, that's fine too. It doesn't it would just be fun to hang out and watch silly movies or whatever. Well, and I also saw that YouTube now has like all of the Paramount Friday the 13th movies. They are edited for television, but so there's stuff like that. And again, Halloween is one of the scary movies are one of my favorite things. So I could do some of my favorite scary movies. And then just chat while they are on. Yeah, horror-thon, like at the end of, well, not the end of, but like during Halloween, the 1978 with Jamie Lee Curtis. Anyhow, I'll stick something up also on the members-only community tab. But it would be fun. And again, it's nobody's on screen. It's just a side chat on the side of the screen. And then we all can watch the same movie. So I have friends from high school, and every Friday the 13th we watch a Friday the 13th movie. And every Halloween we do a couple nights of scary movies. Just like we used to do back in high school. And one of them, my friend Holly, she and I lived in the same apartment in Austin and worked at Blockbuster. And we would be on this. I did the schedule, so we were often the same shift. That way we could commute in and not, because Austin traffic sucks. But then one week she would drive, and the next week I would drive. But we would pull our free rentals and get scary movies and get cheesy fast food and watch terrible scary movies. So, but she and I still do that, and then our other friend Hope will join us. But yeah, but it's a fun thing we could do. So I will definitely sort of get a movie list together. And we'll figure out how to make it work schedule-wise. So, yeah, we don't have to, like it's Halloween, so obviously it's something scary-ish. But we could also, for Christmas every year, one of my personal rituals is watching the Star Wars Holiday Special. So we could definitely do that this year. Because if you've never seen it, you have to see it at least once to appreciate how terrible it actually is. And then, for Christmas, I do Gremlins, Valley of the Dolls, the Star Wars Holiday Special, and then Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson in A Long Kiss Goodnight. I occasionally will do Die Hard, but Die Hard's not like it's not a tradition. It just sometimes it happens because Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I watch it all the time. Like, all the time. I enjoy it. He is a little bit, yeah. A lot of the art in this book is people are super lanky and angular. But I do like, that is kind of one of the cool things in this book is that it's the same artist through the whole thing. So that's kind of cool. Some of the DC books will have different artists. Well, a lot of it's just them recycling like old covers and old art in black and white. But this one, it's like the same artist of the entire book. So everyone is sort of, there's a consistency to the style. which is kind of pleasing sometimes for coloring. The next, and I'm going to go ahead and say this because I've been looking forward to this one. But one of the next pages, we're going to work on this double page spread of Giganta and Starro. Because, you know, Giganta's obviously one of my favorite Wonder Woman villains, but also it's a pretty cool picture. So, it wasn't particularly spooky enough, in my opinion, so that's why we're not. That was the original goal, was I would start that, and I'm like, you know, guys, it's Halloween, so we should do something spooky, which is Man-Bat. So. Could have gone super spooky, but I already used the Scarecrow for this month's pencil test video. So sadly, if I had thought the live streaming a little bit more in advance, we could have done Scarecrow. But Man-Bat works. So I need some of these browns for when we do Man-Bat, but I need more gray. I need a darker gray too. Let's see. This one is called Flat Black. Yep, that's it's a pretty dark gray, so I'll use that one. Get that all in. Yeah, I watch the holiday special, like I said, every year. People hate me for it. Matt refuses to watch it at this point. He had never seen it. The first year we were together and we spent Christmas, I'm like, well, here's how we celebrate this holiday. And I'm going to tell you, he did not appreciate the holiday special. Which is fine. I question more people who, like, somebody tried to argue with me one time that it was good. And I'm like, no, I appreciate it. I watch it every year, but it's not good. What makes a holiday special so special is it's so bad. Like, it's at times painfully bad. And there's something beautiful about that. And so, but there are parts of it that are really, but you know, like the Boba Fett cartoon in it is really good. I like B. Arthur and the singing, you know, the Cantina musical number she gets to do. There's nothing quite like B. Arthur doing a musical number in a cantina with a bunch of cantina aliens. Like, that's a figure we need, Kenner. I mean, Hasbro. Like, we need B. Arthur serenading the Cantina Patreons. Although now that there's that company that did the Golden Girls figures, I might just buy one of those and then do a boil and pop with, like, say, well, Mon Mothma is too short, though. Maybe get one of the Funky McClunky Imperial dignitaries in a robe and then just boil and pop that. Although I think Funky McClunky actually does the B. Arthur figure. I need to look into that. That's going to be a project for next year. I'm going to start picking up a bunch of the people who do amazing custom figures. I'm going to start picking up custom figures to start. The goal next year is to, like, start. I mean, I've been working on it, but I really next year want to close off some of my collections and finish them. And I think, for instance, my, you know, my vintage 1978 Kenner Star Wars collection. Part of completing that is going to be picking up customs of the characters that weren't ever made. I'm sort of winding down with what I pick up from Vintage Collection and Black Series. At this point, Black Series and Vintage Collection are just original trilogy for me and prequel Padme stuff, and I need them to do more from the sequel movies. I need like definitive versions of each of the characters. I don't have to go deep, but I need a couple. I want every Leia from the sequel movies, and I need a couple of Vintage Collection Finns and Roses, etc., so that I can have the proper, like the cast of characters. They don't have to go deep. I know a lot of people don't want that stuff. But I like having one version of every major character from each of the movies on the shelf. So, all right, there we go. We got some of the steam done. Aw. The Black Series or the Power of the Force? I've got a dozen Power of the Force Leias in the Ewok gown. At one point, I picked up a lot because I needed one figure in it, and it was like a $20 lot, and the figure itself was going for like $30 to $40 on its own. And as part of the lot, there were a bunch of Power of the Force figures, and there were like 5 Ewok Celebration Leias in there, and I already had like 3 or 4. So something that I can use to customize some figures. That had the better Leia head sculpt that they did. After the debacle of that first Leia head sculpt in Wave 1, and because of the way that hair attaches, it's really easy to remove the hair and then have no hair so that you can sculpt in whatever you want. And I could probably use it to make a better Power of the Force Leia Bausch, because that one also has the terrible first Leia head sculpt. Okay, yeah. I've got a couple Black Series Andor Leias because I also I'm going to use that to custom. I'm going to just do a straight up. I got a couple of the Akiko figures from G.I. Joe Classified, and I'm going to boil and pop. Even though the heads don't quite work between Classified and Black Series, I will have to do a little alteration there to make it work. but I'm going to do a boil and pop with the Indoor Celebration Leia and an Akiko to make a sort of Jedi Knight Leia, because I think the Akiko outfit works pretty well. You know, like it looks fairly good among my among Jedi figures. So I'm gonna use that to make a Jedi Leia. And I might do the second one because I have a couple of Kikos. At one point it was like $3 for that figure on Amazon, and I got 4 or 5. And the same with the Indoor Leia during a Prime Day. So I think I'm also going to use the same thing, but then use some dark paints to make sort of a dark Jedi Leia, or Sith Lord Leia, or whatever. Which is, of course, both fan fiction, but whatever. Star Wars is... For me, Star Wars has almost always been mostly headcanon. So the sequels didn't bother me. I'm just like, well, you know, my headcanon still is rule supreme. Yeah, I think it'll look really good, and you know, we never get to see Leia as a Jedi in the movies. I mean, we probably would have if Carrie Fisher hadn't passed, because you know they did have her in pretty Jedi robes and the digital stuff they did, and then they showed her training in some flashbacks, but I think we probably would have got some Jedi Leia stuff if Carrie Fisher hadn't passed. And so, I'm going to make my own, and it'll be fine. You know, 1978 with my action figures, I created my own headcanon. And then after Return of the Jedi, when they stopped making movies, I had more headcanon, so. I watched a video not long ago where, and I forgot who did it. It was a really good video, but he basically said canon is what's actually destroying most of our franchises. And his arguments were well supported. And he sort of pointed out as before sort of the internet age, there was no canon. You know, like canon was pretty flexible because you couldn't easily access stuff. You know, so if they made a new movie and the things were different, it was fine. Like with the Star Trek movies, he had this big section about how, like, the original episode with Khan from the original Star Trek series, there were a lot of differences between the episode of the show and the movie. And because at that point, it was like most people had never seen that episode because, you know, even in syndication, you don't always get every episode in your syndication package that your local network had. You know, so people who had seen the episode or were familiar with it, you know, like enjoyed sort of the nod to the old show, but none of them expected it to be faithful to the old episode. And we're now in a point where it's like a lot of us, and myself included at times, expects, you know, the canon and the continuity to line up with, especially in I'll use comic books because this is the place where I'm the worst about it. You know, like I expect my Wonder Woman comic book that came out last week to align with continuity from 1952 or whatever. And Not as much now, but there was a time where canon for comic books was super important. But I think, I don't know, I feel like too many of us, myself at times included, are far too fixated on the canon always lining up. And the hypothesis of the video was that basically when you're so sort of tied into events so tightly, you know, from like a piece of media made 20, 30 years ago even last, you know, like last year, like that it hurts sort of the creative process. So I mean, I think that's a sort of your mileage will vary, and there are times where sticking really closely to canon is better, and there are times where you should be able to just sort of chuck it all out the window and go with it. But for whatever reason, modern audiences want continuity and canon to always perfectly align. And if it doesn't, well, then we get mad and make hours and hours of content on YouTube about how terrible it is. So I can remember who it is. I'll put that on. I could probably find it if I go and look through my watch history. It's been a couple weeks since I watched it, and I watch a lot of YouTube. But if I can find it, I'll put it on the community tab. Because I thought it was a pretty well-researched, well-written, well-presented video. Doesn't mean I think it's 100% accurate. But his arguments were at least well-supported, and he had good points. So, all right, we have finished the steam, the smoke, the stank of Gotham. Well, hello. It's great to see you, Payne. I'm glad you're here. And hello, Todd. Welcome. Lovely to see you as well. Happy Sunday. Yeah, and that was the first thing they led with in the episode about how Chekhov wasn't around yet or whatever. So, right? Yeah, a bunch of stuff that I ordered from Big Bad Toy Store in Hasbro popped up last week. So. But that tends to be how they are. I remember a few years ago I had ordered a bunch of stuff from them through Big Bad Toy Store that was estimated for January and February. And like mid-October, it all started showing up. And I had not budgeted for it to show up mid-October. So I was a little peeved. I ended up going in and canceling some of it just because, you know, if you tell me it's shipping in January or February and then it come back and it's like October, I consider that a valid reason to cancel pre-orders. Otherwise, I don't cancel pre-orders. But if the delivery date is far, far in the future and it shows up early, I will go cancel a pre-order. You gotta play fair. And I know technically that's not Big Bad Toy Store's fault. I know that's a Hasbro thing, but still. We live on budgets. At least we should. If you're not budgeting for toys and buying a lot of toys, then will you be my sugar daddy? No, just kidding. Just kidding. Definitely not going to ask that on the internet. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of stuff showing up from Hasbro. A lot of the vintage collection stuff that I am buying though, so that was kind of exciting. I'm hoping to have like a nice set of the original in vintage collection. The original 12 Kenner figures that came out in '78. It's kind of one of my goals, and I think I have all of the original 12 in various forms, but there are a few of the older figures that desperately needed sort of a remake that are finally getting sort of redone. Like the Obi-Wan Kenobi, some people are arguing he's not better, but I feel like it looks better on the card than the one I have from like 2004. So at the minimum, I'll have a new wall figure of old Ben. I don't have any G.I. Joe stuff on. My last G.I. Joe order was the retro card and retro style blonde cover girl, and she arrived for me like a month ago. I haven't opened her yet, but she arrived. So she'll be one of the figures when I sit down in the next 2 or 3 weeks and start opening everything. She's at the top of the list. And I'm going to use, she comes with 2 heads. So I'm going to use, I have this, whenever they were doing the big Akiko sale on Amazon, they also had a bunch of the Scarlets from the Snake Eyes movie that were like $3 or $4. So I picked up a couple of those. So one of those Scarlets will become the new host body of the extra cover girl head. And even though it's super armored, I'm thinking I'm going to use the baseball cap head for it because I think that would be a cool, kind of a cool look. I'll do some paint apps on it so that it's not just the same as the Scarlet body. I mean the same paint colors. And go in and add some CoverGirl-esque coloring. Or maybe do like hot pink and some neon blue. Make her super girly. With some 80s colors. Yeah, that would work. Ooh, amazing. Thank you. Always love new viewers. Kenzo. Oh. Really quick, Kenzo is a channel member, so we know what that means.
Bring out the olive. Bring out the olive. Bring out the olive.
And enough champagne to fill the Nile.
Excellent. Welcome, Kenzo. Ooh, that's cool. Yeah, I think I'm going to get another Zorana at some point just so that I can display her in both modes. Because she's cool. Like, I really like the Zorana. I don't know. I know there are a lot of people who have, you know. Also, I'm not, you know, like, as an adult, I don't collect as much G.I. Joe as I did as a kid. So I'm not as attached to G.I. Joe. So I don't have, like, when the first Cover Girl came out and everyone was like, oh my god, she's terrible. She looks like Joan Rivers. I'm like, I mean, have you seen the vintage one? Like, that was not, vintage Cover Girl, not pretty. That lipstick, boy. I mean, vintage Lady J looks like Michael Myers. I mean, look at her. If you were to paint her face white, and she would look like Michael Myers from Halloween. Like, anything's an improvement. But also, again, it's not my main jam. And for people that G.I. Joe is your main jam, you have completely different standards than I do. And that's cool. It's your deal. But I quite liked the Zorana. I really liked the retro cover girl. I mean the retro Scarlet. I have Helix. I like her quite a bit. I enjoy Shooter. I need to open the Glenda that Adam from Highly Articulated sent me all the way from Canada. But she's super cool. I get why they put her in a HasLab, but I also just wish they had released her as a normal release. I think I don't have, ironically, with her constantly on shelves, I don't have a Lady J yet for Classified. But I will get one eventually. And I need to get a Coral still. I don't want she's a part of a two-pack though, I don't want the other figure. So I've basically been on eBay, you know, looking at the corals that have been removed from the packaging or being sold separately, waiting for the right one that hits the sweet spot of what I'm willing to pay for the figure and what I'm willing to pay for shipping. And then also just, as mentioned, I am closing off other collections. So there's stuff that take priority. This is not going to kill my collection if I don't have these. You know, don't have them. I've got a really good Baroness. I've got a really good Scarlet. I've got Jinx. I've got Zorana. Those were like my favorites as a kid. So I've got my favorite Lady Joes. I still need a crystal ball, but he's just so hard to find and expensive. But eventually, you know, I will have a crystal ball. Because he was my favorite as a kid too. I liked all the weird Joes everyone else makes fun of. That was my G.I. Joe. That was a G.I. Joe I liked the best when it got weird. I asked myself, but also I think it is because in the original Wonder Woman movie, you don't notice it because one, Chris Pine is pretty good and does heavy lifting. Also, it plays into her character in that movie. She's not as talkative. It's in the movies where she has a lot of dialogue where it's noticeable. So, oh, sucky, sucky. Well, they're gonna make that money. Huh. Huh. Yeah. All the olives, all the time. All right, here. I'm gonna do the moon now. go. There's the moon. Actually, all right, there we go. That's better. Right now, let's see. We've got 17 minutes. So obviously, I'm not going to finish my about in 17 minutes, but we're going to get as much done as we can get done. I never encountered that, but also I grew up um in the in like Cajun country in Louisiana, so there was a lot of um Cajun colloquialisms that like we would get there. So that's not one of the ones I'm familiar with. And then in Texas it was Yeah, not so much in Texas because it was my grandparents were really close to a military base, so it's southern but not as colloquial. There's not as much language because so many people were from everywhere. So it was a lot of the slang I grew up with in the Texas part of my time in the South was very Texas oriented and very Midwestern, ironically, because so many people who ended up settling there were from like the Midwest. So it's this weird mixture of like sort of Cajun, Louisiana, Southerners. There's a lot of I do declare or, you know, that's what I remember the most being used. But, you know, once you start getting over into like Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, the Carolinas, Virginia, and technically Arkansas and Missouri, even though they are sort of, in my opinion, far closer to the Midwest than the South. Those also have a lot of Southernisms. But yeah, no, that's not one I ever encountered. I've heard it, but I've never. It's something I've heard after leaving the South. So I will say though, also about the I swear thing, depending on the flavor of evangelicalness in the part of the South you're in, I swear often in some evangelical. I have a cousin who they never would say I swear because when you say I swear, you're swearing to God. So to them that was sacrilegious. That was as bad as taking the Lord's name in vain. So they any sort of variation of I swear would never have even remotely entered their lexicon. And so, and obviously, like, you know, they were fun to be around. Yeah, let's leave it at that. They were fun to be around. That was the first part of my family I went no contact with, and that it was easy too. Like it wasn't the sometimes when you go for people who have gone no contact, sometimes it's a really difficult decision to make, and then other times it's just like, yep, no, we're good. I mean, I was no contact with them even when we were all at the same family reunion together. I would sit in a corner and read a book and pretend they didn't exist. So that one was easy. But yeah, I do know that they would not even say, I swear, because that was taking the Lord's name in vain. I mean, they were also a very, very, very strict form of evangelical. Like, if you can believe that there are stricter versions, especially in certain parts of the South. Like, it's again, certain rural areas get really, really, really zealous in their devoutness. So I'm sure they're happy though. Like I'm sure right now they're happy. Um, I mean, I wouldn't know because some of them can't even use the internet because the internet is sinful, which is good. They don't need to be on the internet, frankly. Their critical thinking skills are pretty. What's the word I'm looking for? Shit-tacular. There we go. That's the word. So they would not bode well or survive the internet very well. Oh, we've got like 8 minutes left. I'm gonna at least get sort of the base color for the wings down so that there's not much left, but if I get this down, I won't be trying to remember what the plan was for the wings. Because after this, I just need to layer like browns and some purples and pinks into the wings. But I need to get this peachy color in there. Because this is the one this is the color I would be most likely to forget that I wanted to include. It's watermelon. Alright, cyanide pink. Use the cyanide pink for the inside of his mouth. I'll put some red in there too, but just get started with that. And the same for his ears. And get some of the lower level colors, lower layer colors. Words are hard. It'll be a lot easier when I pick this up. All right, let's see. And this color is called Stink Bug. So. All right, let's see. Yeah, 5 minutes left. We're gonna call it quits for Man Bat for the day, but we will get to him on another day. Because, as mentioned, I do still have this Trigon to finish. And I also have, where's it at? And I also started the Savannah. So I think next time we work on this book, I'll start with Man Bat and finish him up. Then I'll finish Trigon, and then we'll move to the Savannah. At some point, we'll do Catwoman. I might do these as shorts or full videos, because those are really good pictures of Catwoman and Cheetah. But, so I've got, and at some point, probably we'll do a Joker. I guess at some point you have to do the Joker. Anyway. All right, let's see. Oh, of course the camera is not wanting to focus. There we go. All right, let's see. Okay. I have to go in and check this because I tried to be really specific about what kind of ads not to run, and that sounds like the kind of ads I told them not to run. Anything that's an MLM or, you know, scam products or medication or anything, you know, like anything that's propaganda or political, I asked them not to run those, but they sneak them through. So I'll go check, because although I want everyone here to unlock their potential, I can pretty much guarantee no product being sold to you on the internet is going to unlock your potential. Everyone unlocks their own potential on their own terms. It's probably a supplement. All right, anyway, we're going to wrap it up. Coming up on the channel tomorrow, I am dropping a video. It is a flip through of a 1980 mask maker coloring book, which has 12 different Halloween masks in it. And the goal was that you would color it, cut it out, wear it. It even comes with elastic, the little elastics they put in it, so you could have worn it as a kid. And the short that dropped this morning of the pumpkin is actually one of the masks. However, I'm not going to make people wait for shorts. So all 12 masks are actually in the video, about a minute each. Next, there are also some strawberry shortcake and Barbie shorts. Next Friday is Color and Chill Return of the Jedi speeder bike chase. And then Saturday is a Barbie 1985 to 86 toy catalog video. And then next Sunday, I will be here with Chris from Shiny Plastic People, and we're going to color some Halloween masks from that book. So join, so check some stuff out. For members, don't think there's anything specific dropping this week, but there'll be some polls and stuff that we need to work on. So, and we will figure out the movie stuff for a watch thing. So anyhow, well, Ipsy is not technically a brand. It's a company that sends you makeup. So it'll send you samples of makeup so you can try stuff. So if any, that one I actually use sometimes. Every so often I'll rejoin. They'll send me samples. I'll try stuff. My face breaks out, and then I'm like, I'm just going to stick to the CoverGirl cosmetics I've been using for 30 years because it's the only thing that doesn't make my face look like Freddy Krueger. And on that note, thank you everyone for hanging out with me today. As mentioned, yesterday sucked. This has helped a lot to burn off the afterglow of the shit-tacular day yesterday. Thank you to all the members, and remember, this week you need to
Bring out the olive.
And enough champagne to fill the Nile.
So, and if anybody tells you otherwise, just say,
Kalel, no. Kalel, no.
And always,
Max Lord, you're putting yourself and everyone else in grave danger. I need you to give me the stone. What happened to it?
and now that we've suitably dragged Gal Gadot again for her line delivery, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you all so much. To my olives, to my non-olives, I appreciate you. There are some weeks where, like, it is bad, and you guys help me make it to the good times. So thank you very much for that. And we're going to leave you with this classic 80s clip, as we always do.
I haven't made up my mind yet. Incidentally, which one of you bitches is my mother?